Imagine carrying something heavy. Not impossibly heavy at first, just awkward enough that your arms begin to ache after a while. You shift the weight from one side to the other, you adjust your grip. You tell yourself you'll be fine. Then someone notices and asks, "Do you want help?" Without thinking, you answer, "No, I've got it." Even though part of you knows the extra set of hands would make things easier.
For some people, this moment isn't just about carrying groceries or handling a difficult task. It reflects something much deeper, a pattern that appears in almost every area of life. It shows up in the person who spends 5 exhausting hours trying to fix a broken appliance alone. It is the individual who is visibly overwhelmed by their workload, but reflexively answers, "I'm fine," the moment they are asked. They are the first to drop everything to help someone else, yet they seamlessly hide their own mounting difficulties. They struggle quietly. They solve problems alone. They go through stressful periods that nobody knows about.
From the outside, this can look like pride, stubbornness, or an unwillingness to trust others. But psychology is often far more complicated than that, because many people who never ask for help are not trying to prove how strong they are. They are trying to stay safe in the only way they learned how. The story often begins much earlier than people realize. When you see a child who quietly says it's okay, even when they are visibly hurt, you are witnessing the very foundation of hyperindependence. Many people who never ask for help learned very early in life that their needs were an inconvenience. Perhaps their emotional requests were ignored, minimized, or met with frustration. A parent overwhelmed by their own problems. A household where emotional needs received little attention. An environment where being easy, mature, independent, or low maintenance earned praise.
Over time, the child begins to absorb a quiet message. My needs create problems. My feelings take up space. The less I need, the easier things become. You may have known someone like this growing up. The child who never asked for much. The one adults described as mature beyond their years. The one who seemed remarkably independent. What often goes unnoticed is that independence and emotional self-sufficiency are not always the same thing. Sometimes independence develops because there was no other option. The developing brain is brilliant at recognizing patterns. It quickly learns a core psychological rule. My problems are mine to solve. Asking for support disrupts the fragile peace of the environment. In order to stay safe and in order to be loved, the individual learns to completely internalize their struggles.
There is another layer that often goes unnoticed. For some individuals, receiving help never feels free. Even when help is desperately needed and freely offered by a stranger with no hidden motives, the immediate reaction is resistance. This reaction stems from a deep psychological fear of obligation. Support is subconsciously logged as a transaction, a debt that will eventually have to be repaid. This creates an intense fear of losing autonomy or of becoming uncomfortably tethered to someone else's expectations. Help feels like a trap. In this psychological framework, maintaining total independence, no matter how exhausting, feels like the only way to maintain complete freedom.
So they continue carrying everything themselves, not because it is easier, but because it feels safer. Picture a small table at a busy coffee shop. One person is leaning forward, crying quietly,
pouring out the details of a difficult week. The other person sits perfectly steady, nodding, offering gentle advice, and sliding a napkin across the table. But the moment the crying friend pauses and asks, "What about you? How are things at your job?" the listener instantly deflects. They make a quick, self-deprecating joke, wave their hand dismissively, and pivot the conversation completely back to the friend. Over time, this behavioral adaptation solidifies into an identity. You become known as the strong one. Friends naturally gravitate to this person for support. They are the dependable one, the crisis manager, the rock.
But a quiet tragedy occurs within this dynamic. Nobody realizes the rock is actually crumbling. Because they have spent years perfecting the art of handling everything, they literally do not know how to switch roles. Being the one who is needed feels incredibly familiar and secure. Needing others feels completely foreign, terrifying, and out of character. The role becomes so familiar that they stop imagining themselves in any other position. Being needed feels natural. Needing someone else feels strange. And eventually, they begin carrying not only their own burdens, but pieces of everyone else's as well. Receiving care requires a person to tolerate being seen. It means allowing vulnerability to be exposed to the open air. For a mind adapted to hiding its needs, having someone's undivided, compassionate attention feels blinding and incredibly uncomfortable. Being cared for triggers a spike in anxiety because it requires the relinquishing of control. Receiving support demands trust, and for the heavily guarded heart, trusting someone not to drop them feels far more agonizing than just carrying the heavy burden alone. As these experiences accumulate, self-reliance begins to feel less like a skill and more like a survival strategy. For many, relying on others in the past felt deeply unreliable.
Perhaps when they did ask for help, the support was wildly inconsistent, used against them later, or simply never arrived. Trusting someone else became an emotional risk that the nervous system could no longer afford to take. Doing everything yourself, despite having support standing right in front of you, is not a rejection of the person offering. It is an adaptive response. If relying on others once led to severe disappointment or danger, absolute self-reliance begins to feel like the only reliable form of safety. We often view this intense independence as a sign of strength.
But hyper-independence is rarely about strength. It is a form of armor. You may have seen this pattern before. The person who insists on doing everything themselves. The friend who never asks for favors. The coworker who takes on too much responsibility and refuses assistance even when overwhelmed. Often, they aren't trying to impress anyone. They simply trust themselves more than they trust support. And while that strategy can be effective, it comes with a hidden cost. Because every system has limits. Even highly capable people eventually become tired.
The strategy of complete self-reliance works brilliantly for a long time, until it doesn't. Because eventually, the accumulation becomes too much. The chronic emotional load of processing every difficulty, every fear, and every crisis entirely internally leads to a profound, quiet burnout. It creates a deep sense of isolation. A quiet resentment begins to build, a feeling of being entirely unsupported and invisible to the world. But the painful reality is that the people around them cannot respond to needs they never see. The armor that was built to keep out disappointment has successfully kept out the comfort, too.
Picture a busy kitchen during a family holiday gathering. One person is standing at the sink, frantically washing dishes, wiping down counters, and managing the oven, while everyone else is laughing and relaxing in the next room. The person grips the sponge tightly, scrubbing a pan with unnecessary force. They keep glancing at the doorway, desperately hoping someone will walk in and say, "Let me take over." But they never open their mouth to ask for it. They are silently thinking, if they really cared about me, they would just know. This creates one of the most painful contradictions. Many people who never ask for help desperately want support.
They simply don't know how to reach for it. They secretly hope that someone will read their mind, recognize their distress automatically, and step in without being prompted. The need for deep connection and care absolutely exists. To be understood without explanation. To be noticed without needing to wave for attention. To have someone recognize the struggle automatically. But human beings rarely work that way. Most people are occupied by their own worries, responsibilities, and limitations. Even caring people miss things. Even loving people overlook signals. The desire for connection is not the problem.
The problem is expecting connection to happen without communication. The solution is not becoming dependent on everyone. Healthy independence remains valuable. Being capable is valuable. Self-reliance is valuable. The goal is flexibility. Healthy independence means that self-reliance remains a highly valuable skill, but support becomes an option instead of a threat. It is the ability to accept a small favor without feeling indebted. It is the willingness to let someone help with a simple task, or to share a fraction of a problem before it reaches a catastrophic breaking point. It shifts the internal narrative from "I absolutely must do this alone" to "I can do this alone, but I do not have to." The strength is not in refusing support. The strength is in knowing you have options. Small acts, but psychologically significant ones. Because every time support is received safely, the nervous system learns something new. Maybe dependence and helplessness are not the same thing. Maybe asking for help does not reduce strength. Maybe it expands it. Imagine once again that heavy box. You've been carrying it for a long time. Long enough that your hands have adjusted to the weight. Long enough that the strain feels normal. And then someone walks beside you and asks, "Do you want some help with that?" And without even thinking, entirely out of habit, you answer, "No, I've got it." You say this not because the box isn't heavy. You say it because you have been carrying the weight entirely by yourself for so long that it became your identity. It became safety. But perhaps healing does not mean dropping the box entirely. Perhaps it just means allowing your definition of safety to expand, just slightly, to include the presence of another person. Not to carry the entire weight, just to hold one corner of the box. If you recognized yourself in this video, consider subscribing for more explorations of psychology, emotional patterns, and the quiet experiences people rarely talk about. There's always space here whenever you feel like returning.